What is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how to replace the battery in your '07 on up, basically Sportster and Nightster, as well as this should be the same steps if you have an iron 883. First step is if you have a backrest or an extended seat like I do, you're going to want to remove the bolt here, which in my case it's an 11 mil or 7/16. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead, and you should have to shove forward a bit on the seat to kind of like fold it and then pull up and back. You can see here, this is why you have to kind of push it down and forward, is this big ol' basically door striker hooks into here, and then also this metal tab hooks into here. There's actually supposed to be a rubber piece on here, but mine got all dry rotted and fell off, so I haven't been using it. And yes, I'm aware this thing is absolutely filthy. It didn't wash it the greatest last year, and as you can see, it's still in my storage unit from last riding season. Now, removal of the seat might not be 100% necessary, but it does make it easier because now you can kind of move these harnesses around and get to the negative battery terminal better. Then we're going to remove this side cover here. We're just going to grab and pull outwards, and then it should still be hooked on the bottom there. I'm going to try and lift it up off of this because I would like to get it fully out of my way for this. Alright, well, that wasn't too fun to get off. I got a little hung up on the little window there. You can see right here, this is what hooks on it. Little piece of plastic. You just kind of be careful when you're pulling it off. What I did is I put my fingers underneath this and kind of supported it while I pushed it off, so I didn't bend this thing all up. Next step is going to be undoing the battery hold down. Don't mind this. This is just my Cobra auto tuner. To get the thingamajigger unhooked, battery hold down, you basically just hold this piece and then take this piece here and push in, and then you'll have to lift on this piece. There we go. And if you don't care, or if you're lazy, you can basically just take this and bend it down. Otherwise, on the bottom there is a bolt here. I believe that's a 3/8, maybe a 10 mil. Okay, so this is a 3/8, not a 10 millimeter. I didn't have a socket on me, so I cracked it loose with a wrench. If you're in the same boat as me, it's kind of a pain because this hose is in the way, so you got to kind of come behind it right here and kind of force it on there. It's a pretty tight fit. And I'm going to fully remove the bolt the rest of the way and remove this hold down strap. Alright, mine's just hanging by the wires here because of the Cobra. I guess I could take the Velcro off, but screw it. Obviously, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you want your ignition turned off. I don't even have my key in right now. Next step's going to be taking a Phillips screwdriver or a 10 millimeter, and we'll unhook the positive battery cable here, as well as the negative. Once you unhook the positive, you can probably push the cables out of the way and slide the battery out a little bit to access the negative a little bit better. Make sure you keep count how many you pull off of each terminal so you know you're putting all your connections back on. There's nothing more frustrating than doing a starter or a battery or something and then going to start it and realizing you have no power. So another good way, if you're not good at remembering stuff, is just take the screw out here and put a zip tie through the eyelet of all these cables. Same with the ground ones, that way you know all the grounds go together and all the powers that go together. So there's the positive unhooked, and I'm going to slide this out a little bit. Now you'll see, if I can find it, I lost it already. Keep an eye on the little nut that goes in here if your new battery doesn't come with it, because you're going to need to reuse it. Mine came with a new one, so I'm not worried, but I did hear it just drop. So prime example, grab it before you pull the battery. I can't get this quite all the way out. The negative cable isn't quite long enough. Poor engineering in my opinion here. So I'm gonna end up probably pushing it back in a little bit, and I can get to it right there. If it was just a little longer. Oh, there we go. I guess I can pull the, you can kind of pull it out and down. I would not let it hang by the cable. You don't want to rip the cable out of the crimp, but now we can at least get to it, remove that one, and we're ready to put the new battery in. So here's my new battery. I just bought the cheapest lithium battery that Dennis Kirk had. I will post this one as well as a couple different options depending on your budget in the video description if you would wish to purchase a battery online. We're gonna go ahead and unbox this here. Like I said, it does come with new nuts and bolts there. We do have instructions that we're gonna read quick. So if you're installing a new lithium battery like I am, you'll want to pay attention to the charging portion. They say if it's at 13 volts, you can basically throw it in right away. But if it's lower, then you have to use, you can use just a regular 12 volt car charger, but not the pulse charge function. So you don't want it to be like a battery tender. You want to have a constant charge on it. Otherwise you can get special LifePo lithium battery chargers. So now we're going to take our fancy Harbor Freight or Home Depot voltmeter and just check how much voltage we have here before I waste my time putting it in. Boom, 13.1, ready to go. Just a quick note, these guys advertise the lithium batteries weighing only about a third as much as that one, and I'm gonna say they're correct. I forgot this thing was so light. I went to pick it up, almost threw it through the roof here. So I've got the rubber protective cover off this thing. It doesn't say in the instructions, I'm so used to calling them that, the instructions, doesn't say if you're supposed to pull it off or not. I was gonna leave it on just to maybe act as like an anti-rattle device and keep any moisture out of there. But then I thought, well, I don't want this thing to overheat because there's a piece of rubber sitting on it. So I pulled it off. As you'll see here, new battery has quite high loops here. So you may have trouble getting your battery cable nut started. As you can see, the last person that put this battery in used like a piece of cardboard that they wedged in there underneath the nut to hold it up a little bit so they could start the bolt easier. But before we put the new battery in, we want to match it up to the old one, make sure it's similar in size. You can see here they are the same length and width. The only difference is their height is substantially different. I would say by about an inch. So what I did is I just took this battery and shoved it in place and made sure that I could actually latch it, and I could. So I'm pretty sure this will work. Like I said, I got this based off the year, make, model of this bike off Dennis Kirk, so it should fit. I actually think this battery might have been the wrong one because my battery hold down was a little bit loose. So I'm thinking this is actually the proper size for it anyway. All right, there we go. The ground is secured. You don't need to go too ridiculously tight on these. Just remember what they're threading into. It's just a small little nut. And in fact, sometimes they're not steel. The new ones were steel, so they're pretty stout. I wasn't really too worried about them. The old ones look like they were lead, which are obviously very soft. So you don't want to over tighten this, because if you strip that nut out, you're basically screwed. You're gonna have to get new nuts that'll fit in there to hold this. Another thing you want to do is, I was paying attention when I pulled the old one out, and the battery cable, the ground was angled a little bit, kind of pointing towards the corner of the battery. And the reason for that is because if you have it going straight that direction, it's going to hit this. So it needs to be angled a little bit so that when it's in place, the cable exits this way where you can see it's routed towards. So I'm going to hook and put this in there and see what happens. See how it fits. Alright, I know it's a little hard to see here, but I just kind of pulled these harnesses off to the side and I can see the battery is installed all the way. It's completely bottomed out on this half of the battery hold down. So now we're good to put this hold down back on with our 10mm bolt down here that we removed, and then hook it on the top, and then we can hook up our positive connectors. Again, I think I just lied and said 10 mil. This is a 3/8. Alright, now we have the positive on as well. One thing to keep in mind, the old battery connector bolts were a 10 mil, the new ones were a 3/8, so pay attention to that. You don't want to round out your new bolts. Also make sure your positive is routed however it needs to be in order to get your side cover back on. But before we do any of that, we're gonna go ahead and test start it and make sure all of our connections are good and everything is working properly. First startup of the season, by the way. Well, as you probably noticed there, I didn't want to start right away. And I heard that can happen on these lithium batteries from time to time. They're just kind of a different animal. I don't have a whole lot of experience with the lithium versus your typical NiCad battery or whatever it is. But what they say is that basically these need to have a load put on them in order to charge, kind of. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I literally did nothing. It wouldn't start the first couple tries. I shut the bike off, let it sit for a few seconds, came back, and it fired up just like you saw. I did nothing. I didn't take it battery out, I didn't charge it, I didn't put a jump starter on it. All I did was leave it alone for a few seconds, came back, and so if all has gone well so far, we're going to reinstall our side cover followed by our seat. Don't forget to get your little bottom slot here onto that plastic piece and push down to snap it in, then flip it up, get this little notch lined up with the plastic clip and these little notches lined up. Give it a little gentle tap, make sure it's locked in place. You don't want that falling off going down the road. Everything fits well. And now to reinstall the seat, we're going to do everything in reverse order. Obviously, we're going to stick this metal tab. Hopefully you have your rubber isolator on it still, unlike me, and it's going to stuff under here, if I can aim a camera. And then we're basically going to have to squish the seat so you get the alignment bolt hooked back on. So we're going to do this. And then you can see here, hopefully. So I'm gonna push forward towards the front of the bike. And you can see it's getting closer, closer. It's basically just bending the seat like that, arching it. Gotta force it. There we go. And if you did it right, you won't be able to pick up your seat. I mean, you can pick it up a little bit because I don't have the bolt in the back yet, but you shouldn't be able to pick it up in the center here or the front. So this is what you get when you don't have that isolator. Now we're going to reinstall that bolt that I removed. All right, and we are done. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and push the bell notification button for more videos like this. And check me out on Facebook at Tony the Truck Guy. Thanks for watching.